The Sacramento Kings are juggling two timelines. On one hand, Scott Perry has his new young guys and pieces that he's added to this roster to help establish the new identity of this team going forward into the future. And on the other hand, he's got these big contracts that he's inherited, these older veterans that are more win now players. Can the Kings manage both those timelines and develop the young guys while playing the vets, or does one have to sacrifice for the other? Kevin John from ABC 10 joins me to discuss that right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off season long. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and I'm actually fresh back home after spending my entire day in Santa Clara. I was out at Levi Stadium covering day one of San Francisco 49ers training camp for ABC 10. And while we were stuck in traffic, Bay Area traffic, on the way home, I decided, you know what? Why don't I pull the phone out? Why don't Kevin and I record a little podcast together and discuss the youth movement versus the veterans, a theme here in Sacramento that actually is similar to kind of what the San Francisco 49ers are dealing with. They have a lot of young players that they're adding to kind of that veteran core that they've had established there for many, many years. And the Kings are going to see if they can manage to handle the two timelines more successfully than franchises like the Golden State Warriors have in past years. So please enjoy my conversation about the present and the future and how they intermingle and coexist together here in Sacramento with ABC 10's Kevin John. You're in with the car with us. We're in traffic, making our way back from the Bay to Sacramento after day one of San Francisco 49ers training camp. We all know the 49ers and the NFL exist just to help us kill the time before the start of the NBA season. You know, Kevin, I'm with Kevin John, my partner at ABC 10. The Kings released the preseason schedule the other day, which is always exciting to see because you're like, yes, a tangible date, right? Like, okay, it's real, it's coming. And then you realize it says October and it's July, and you're like, I have to wait 3+ months for the preseason. Thankfully, we have football to help get us through that. We got a lot to talk about with the Kings, Kev. We're going to focus on kind of the two timelines of where the Sacramento Kings are, because you watched the Summer League closely, as did I. We watched the young guys, particularly Nick Clifford, shine on the Summer League stage. Summer League and the NBA, of course, very different things. But we look at this Kings roster, and whether it's DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, there's a lot of veteran talent on this roster. The average age of the Kings still way higher than we would like it to be. So the Kings have their foot in two different pools. They've got this young core-ish, and you can add Keon Ellis to that, even Keegan Murray to some extent. And then you have all these veterans that are trying to make the most out of the years left and the contracts that they're on. What side are you leaning on? We know what the Kings are going to do, and we'll talk about them trying to play the middle. But for you personally, like, what gets you more excited to watch Kings basketball next year? Is it a full year of DeMar and LaVine and Domas coming back and this talented, like, three that they have? Or is it the young guys giving Sacramento hope for a better future?
You know, man, I would say anyone who watched as much as just 5 minutes of the Sacramento Kings throughout Summer League in Vegas would wholeheartedly agree the excitement with the young guys. And I know we're kind of prisoners of the moment because the Summer League Championship was just a few days ago. There's a lot of people riding high on the fact that the Kings even made it into that game and the amount of talent that we saw on display from these young guys. I mean, I can't remember a time, Matt, at least since I've been covering the Kings, that I've been excited about this many young guys. Yes, 3 years ago we were excited about Keegan Murray coming in. Absolutely. And then the year after that, I believe it was Davion Mitchell.
Right.
And whatnot. So Yes, or a year before, I can't remember. But and then when Tyrese Halliburton, I believe that was a year before,
right,
when he came in. So yes, there's always excitement every year, Matt, about whether it's the first round picks or the young. But I can't remember, Matt, where there've been this many intriguing young prospects who are supremely gifted on the same team at the same time. So to answer your question, Matt, I'm going with the young guys. Now, with all due respect to DeMar DeRozan, to Zach LaVine, some of the veterans, excited to see them as well. But man, give me these young guys and let me see Maxime Reynaud, pull up from three, then go on the other defensive end and cloud the passing lanes or protect the rim. Let me see Nick Clifford bring the ball up the court on one end, even though he's a two or small forward, but facilitate plays on the offensive end or display his shooting range and then go back down to the defensive end and clamp up his opponent. There's just so many things, Matt, that I'm really looking forward to with this young core. So to answer your question, absolutely these young guys.
So it's funny because there's some opposing team fans and even some pessimistic Kings fans who are like, we're talking about the 24th overall pick, and we're talking about a second rounder in Nick Clifford and Maxime Reynaud. It's not like we're talking about Cooper Flagg in Sacramento or any of these top lottery picks. But I would argue that's kind of part of the charm, right? It's like, okay, Nick Clifford is a 24th pick, but the Kings moved up to go out and get Nick, but he's an older prospect and someone that, in theory, could positively impact winning right away, although I'm still skeptical about the overall success of this roster as constructed, period. But someone who can contribute right away and still be a piece for the future. And then there's Maxime Reynaud. Anytime you have a 7'1" guy who can shoot, especially with the local ties from Stanford, I think fans are naturally going to be intrigued by that. I think it's safe to say Sacramento is intrigued by these rookies, but I'm just of the feeling and of the belief, Kevin, that reality is going to hit, and it's not a reality of, oh, these guys aren't very good, it was just summer league. It's the reality of where they are in terms of where the Sacramento Kings are and where the Sacramento Kings are going. We know the Kings are not going in a rebuild route. We know the Kings have these massive contracts that they can't really get rid of, Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis specifically, so they're going to kind of be forced to ride it out and try and be competitive as much as possible while these guys are here. I wonder if we should even feel remotely confident that the Kings can handle the two timelines at the same time. We saw the Golden State Warriors try a two timeline thing. Look how it's going with Jonathan Kuminga right now. It's not great, right? And they're trying to maximize the years that Steph Curry has left. I just don't know if we can trust the Sacramento Kings organization, granted Scott Perry, brand new, to handle this two timeline thing, because it's funny, I was actually talking about this on a podcast recently, Kev. Somehow the Sacramento Kings have become like a model organization for the two-way contract. Like, they've had some of the most, if not the majority of the success stories of two-way contracts in the league, from Keon Ellis to Neemias Queta to even Isaac Jones right now. So the Kings have had become this organization that can find diamonds in the rough and turn them into NBA players or develop them into NBA players. But what about using those young pieces with the current pieces that you have right now to build an actual sustainable, successful winner? I don't feel good. I would rather the Kings pick one over the other instead of try and play both sides.
Well, first things first, Matt, you have to look at this. Can anyone right now confidently say that the Sacramento Kings have an identity and they know their identity?
That's the goal of this season, I think, is to establish that.
Okay, but as of right now, that is not established going into it.
No, not at all.
So why do I say that? It's because, to be honest, Matt, I don't really have high expectations for them this season. Now, that's not to say that they can't be competitive. I personally have them falling somewhere between a 7th through 10th seed this year. I think they're a play-in team this year.
But that's not good.
Yes, but let me go. Of course, no one plays to be a play-in team.
Right.
Either you're gonna tank so you can get a top pick, or you're gonna be super competitive and be a playoff team. You don't want to be that in-between year after year where you're just a perennial 9th seed or perennial 8th seed.
Right.
Whatever. No one wants that. The Kings ended up like that last year And the year before, they had two. After coming off that playoff berth in 2023, they've had two subsequent years where they've been play-in teams and been eliminated both times out of the play-in. So they're going back to what I'm saying, Matt, is you have to identify a culture or an identity if you truly want to give your fan base some form of optimism or hope. Now, yes, coming out of Summer League, like I said, I am high on these young guys, but at the end of the day, it's Summer League basketball, and we all know we don't get excited about Summer League basketball because, as Matt said earlier, Summer League and the regular season are two totally different things. It's almost like comparing G League to the NBA. Like that's in a way is kind of like Summer League. So no reason, because if that's the case, remember the Stockton Kings were the G League champions last year.
Right.
So I don't want to get ahead of myself and say, oh, the Kings are going to be great. No, they have some young, intriguing prospects. But going back to what I was saying, Matt, I feel that if you don't know your identity, if you don't know your pulse, if you look at all the teams out there who are competitive right now, they have a sense of identity. Maybe not the Lakers, because there's a lot that's going on over there right now. But they're adding pieces and doing stuff.
Well, their identity is the rich kid that can just go out and get Luka Doncic. So I'd say they're living up to their identity pretty good.
Absolutely. Or the rich kid who can get his son to play for the team.
Yeah,
anyway, but basically what I'm saying is, like, I feel the Sacramento Kings are going to put themselves in a situation, Matt, where they can be competitive. Don't expect this team to have, what is it called, gap years or off year. Like, they're not going for that. But also, you talked about Scott Perry, Matt. This is someone who has a significantly high basketball IQ. And not just Scott Perry. Look at the guys who he brought in around him. B.J. Armstrong, Mike Woodson, and so on. Bobby Jackson, of course, who Doug Kersey brought on the staff. Like, there's so many people that Scott Perry surrounds himself with who have an extremely high basketball IQ and know how to make really good decisions on the executive level. So, Matt, that's something that does give me optimism going into this season, is that Scott Perry, and granted, Scott had to inherit a lot of the players that are on this team. It's not like we're looking at Scott Perry's team or roster, but you're starting to see him kind of form it and put his touch on it. So, I guess that with that being said, Matt, am I excited about this season? Like, well, I'm always excited about any season.
Sure.
I think freaking Washington Wizards fans are excited about the season.
Maybe not.
That's gonna come, But yeah, of course, you're always excited for the season. But Matt, I don't see the Kings being competitive. I don't see them being a top 6 seed in the West. And I'm not trying to say that to sound pessimistic. I'm trying to say that to be realistic. And knowing with the West and how difficult it is, what is a realistic expectation? Now, who knows, Matt? Maxime, Neek, some of these guys can develop very quickly and kind of turn into players that we're like, oh, damn, okay, this can help. And then also, the late first round pick, second round pick, that stuff to me nowadays kind of really, Nikola Jokic was a second round pick.
Talent is talent.
Draymond Green was a second round pick. And think, the last, how many MVPs from Giannis to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, none of them were drafted in the top 10. So it's like, yeah, I get, don't be excited about a late first rounder and a second round pick, but talent is talent, and if these guys can play ball, then so be it.
Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or some high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get into the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet and play every single day. It's easy to use. When you win, payouts are fast, and it makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. That's especially helpful in summertime with 162 games of baseball. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you are part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
I'm just really curious about how Doug Christie handles when the play doesn't meet the identity, because Scott Perry can only do so much right now. He's trying to build a roster. He's trying to handle what he can handle. He inherited a lot of this mess. He's trying to clean it up as best as possible, while the pieces that he's looking to add or has added from the rookies to even Dennis Schroeder, in theory, can help establish that new identity that the Kings have essentially made their top priority for this year. And that's not to say they don't care about winning, but the goal for this season very clearly is, by game 82 at the absolute latest, we know who we are as a basketball team and what we're trying to do. So that question we should definitely have answered, hopefully even well before that, even maybe by the trade deadline. But once the roster construction aspect ends, the keys are handed to Doug. And I wonder, right, and not to pick on Zach LaVine specifically, but I'm going to use him as an example. I don't think Zach LaVine and the way that Zach LaVine plays fits this kind of defensive first identity that the Sacramento Kings are going to establish. I guess I could make the same argument for Sabonis. I could even make the same argument for DeMar DeRozan, but we'll use Zach LaVine for this scenario. If the Kings are trying to establish and build an identity, and guys like Nick Clifford and Maxime Reynaud and Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis are meeting that identity and are fitting with that mold going forward, but Zach LaVine is paid almost $50 million, is averaging 20 points per game, and doesn't fit that mold, like, do you just ride it out and say Zach's going to be Zach and this is the way it is? Do you decrease Zach's playing time, even if it lessens your likelihood of winning short term, to give more opportunity to a Nick Clifford? Like, I'm very curious to see how, when they say establishing the identity is a priority, but what happens when it's more beneficial to your identity to play some of the younger guys than your current stars? I'm very curious about how, if we get to that crossroads point this season.
Well, first of all, I think it's going to be difficult to take away Zach LaVine's minutes or to decrease them when you look at how much that man is making. Okay, that would be an expensive body on the bench, to say the least. So you're almost kind of committed to Zach, even though he is a liability on the defensive end. Same with DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is a liability on the defensive end, but shoot, how many games did DeMar DeRozan help you guys win last year? Do I need to talk about the Miami Heat game that went in overtime, I believe that was, where DeRozan single-handedly brought you back in it? I mean, there's a number of games.
He won a game for you in Dallas by taking over the fourth quarter. I believe that was Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, this was a guy who was it just last year or the year before was the runner-up to the clutch player of the year or something like that.
Yep.
So anyway, with that being said, yes, DeMar is a liability on the defensive end, but the man can win you games on the offensive end.
Right.
You know, same thing, you referenced Luka earlier. Yeah, Luka's a hell of a defensive liability. But damn it, when you put the ball in his hand with a minute left, you know what he can do offensively. So I say with DeMar, at what expense or what are you willing to sacrifice if you're going to take away his minutes? And even LaVine. LaVine is someone who can get you a bucket as well. There's a reason LaVine is a 3-time All-Star. You know, he's a hell of a scorer. And we've seen glimpses of that just in a short time with the Kings this last season. But, yeah, going back to the whole defensive mind, which is, that was when Mike Brown was a head coach. It was defensive-oriented. And Doug Christie, who prides himself on defense and being defensive-minded, you're darn right. You know, he's going to be looking for guys who can provide that kind of defensive intensity that he looks for. Now, are you going to get that from, we know Keegan obviously is a hell of a defender. Sabonis is, he can hold his own at times. Keon Ellis, phenomenal defender. Now once you start getting to some of the other guys, there's some cause for concern. But when you look at Neek and what he was able to do defensively in Summer League, I know he's a rookie. I know he's young, and maybe you don't want to put him in that kind of situation this early. I think, Matt, to me, if I am Doug, I almost feel that it's worth it in order to establish your identity and get your identity and culture set up for the future. I almost feel it's worth it to, sure, if it's at the expense of maybe giving Neek or some of these younger guys more time to develop or to find their defensive grit, by all means, absolutely do it. Because it's not like we're talking about the Kings are going to be playing for a first or second seed this year where it's like, okay, we don't want to mess up anything. Let's be real. Probably, Matt, by the time we're in February or March, the Kings will probably be floating around that 7, 8, 9 range. Like, will it hurt to take away minutes from someone else and give some of the younger guys minutes? I don't think so.
And that may be the time, too, because now we're talking trade deadline time. That might be the time where Perry pulls the trigger on a DeRozan trade or something like that to then open up the door to Neek playing time or a more significant offensive role for Keegan or whatever it may be. So that's why I think it's really important for the Kings to have a pretty good understanding of who they are and where they're going by that February trade deadline time. But I actually want to go back to one thing you said at the very beginning there. You talked about, like, if you're benching Zach LaVine or taking away some of Zach LaVine's minutes, you're paying the guy, again, almost $50 million. That's a lot of money to have
on the bench
to decrease their role or to put them on the bench. And by the way, I don't think there's any realistic remote possibility to either LaVine or DeRozan not starting, right? They're going to start. There's just no way Doug can sell it to the Kings or the Kings can really sell it to themselves that those two are not in the starting lineup, even if fans don't necessarily want that. But I wonder if it's easier for Perry and the Kings to go that route, because when they made the trade last year and they trade De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine, now, like, Zach has to play, not just because of the money he's being paid, but this is who you traded your franchise player for. He has to play. Now, like, Perry never traded for LaVine, never traded for DeRozan, never gave Sabonis that big contract. So does that give Perry more of a green light to, hey, man, these aren't my guys, these young guys, or Keegan Murray or Keon Ellis or whatever, these are my guys. I'm prioritizing them, and it doesn't look bad on me to bench Zach LaVine. Doesn't matter how much I'm paying him. I didn't give him that money. That's just a contract that I inherited.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're Scott Perry, Matt, if you've been handed the keys to a franchise, and you are the GM, and Vivek picked you, and the whole, executive board picked you because they know that you can come in here and bring the Kings or elevate them, bring them back to prominence, then you have to do what you have to do by any means necessary. I think it would be wrong, Matt, for Scott Perry to come in and say, well, if LaVine's not really getting the job done, I don't want to ruffle feathers, or I don't want to change up. I know that the Kings sacrificed a lot in order to acquire LaVine. Once you start thinking like that, you're already losing. You can't think like that. You have to think what is best for this team going forward. And the good news, he has no emotional connection to LaVine because he wasn't the one that went through all this to acquire him.
Right.
So, if anything, it's like, okay. I mean, not to say that Scott Perry doesn't like LaVine. I'm sure he has a great relationship with him. But at the end of the day, that's not his guy. That's not the person he is building around. That's not the person he went out to acquire when he got here. So I'm saying that to say, who cares, like, the ramifications it may have within the Kings fan base or whatnot. And you're right, that is a hell of a lot of money to be decreasing somebody's role or minimizing somebody's role or decreasing their minutes or anything of that sort. I 100% agree. That is a lot of money to shell, to just dismiss. But sometimes you got to do, and also with the De'Aaron thing, but sometimes you got to do what makes sense over feelings. Screw people's feelings or how they feel about certain things. You're here to do a job and to win basketball games. So if people's get all up in their feelings as a result of that, that's not your responsibility. You weren't the one who traded De'Aaron for Levine and whatnot. So to answer your question, if he has to be the bad guy or make the bad decision, I'm all for that, because that's what you're getting paid to do, Matt, is to make the bad decision or the challenging decision in order for the betterment of the team. And it's going to have to come at a sacrifice of somebody. So I have 100% no issue with that.
We'll wrap up with this. Someone that might become Perry's guy, even though he didn't draft him, is Keegan Murray. If the Kings give Keegan Murray an extension, Perry gives Keegan Murray an extension. Essentially, that's, hey, I view you as part of my future. You're one of my guys. And it sounds like the Kings are eager to make that happen at some point here over the next season. I recently talked about this is a unusual year for Keegan, more different than any other year that he's had, specifically because it's a different kind of pressure. Because now, same way we just talked about with Levine and DeRozan, Perry never drafted Keegan. So Perry is not attached to Keegan in that way. Perry's success is not determined by how Keegan plays out, right? Keegan Murray was the 4th overall pick, was arguably, I know Tyrese Halliburton exists, but in terms of highest number, was the biggest draft pick that Monte McNair made, and he had to get it right. There's not that tie in Sacramento anymore for Keegan to Scott Perry. So I wonder if there's going to be a different kind of pressure there of like, I need to perform, I need to step up, I need to go earn my money now, because this front office isn't just going to give it to me because I was their draft pick and they don't want the shame of admitting they got the draft pick wrong. So what are you expecting? What are you looking for? What are you hoping for from Keegan Murray this year realistically? We can all say, oh, make a big scoring jump, but what does that look like on a roster that has Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan on it still?
Well, here's the thing. I think Keegan Murray has proven himself to be a very valuable piece of the Sacramento Kings.
For sure.
He proved that his rookie season, damn it.
Right.
And I think because he had that phenomenal rookie season, Matt, people were expecting him to make this massive jump his sophomore year, second season. This massive jump in scoring and all this other stuff. You know, I heard comparisons. People were saying, you know, he could be the next Kawhi Leonard as far as his ability on both sides of the ball. And just what we've been able to see him, his ability to shoot the basketball. He broke the rookie record in threes his rookie year. So I feel that because he had such a great rookie season, Keegan unfortunately kind of set the bar really high on himself. And I know a lot of people were expecting this massive jump from Keegan from year 1 to year 2 and then into year 3. First of all, you got to realize Keegan has had to pick up a lot of the slack on the defensive end.
All of it.
Night in and night out, Keegan is guarding the best players on the other team. And, you know, and doing a dang good job while doing that. We saw Keegan when he was on Steph. What was that, last year or the year before?
Right.
You know, so when you look at all that is being asked of Keegan to do, he's on offense, he's the 4th option, I want to say, if even that at the on this team, depending on who's on the court.
Yeah.
But I know that Mike Brown, and I know Mike Brown's no longer the coach, but I know Mike Brown said he wanted Keegan to be more aggressive last year and to look for a shot. And I remember that's why in his sophomore season, he put him in the Cali Classic and whatnot, because I want him to learn to be aggressive and how to be a killer, shall you say. So I'm saying all that to say, Matt, Keegan Murray is a vital part of the Sacramento Kings team. I feel he's a vital part of their identity, and he's a unique player in the sense that he can defend pretty much every position on the floor. And then on the offensive side, he can space the floor. He can shoot the heck out of the ball. He struggles sometimes at creating his own shot. I wouldn't say he's an ISO, create your own shot kind of player, but I've seen him do it before. But I just feel he has too many tools, and there's too many good things that Keegan has that you would want to sacrifice, maybe giving him up and not necessarily giving him a long-term contract, because there's not a lot of players in the league who I feel give you the production that Keegan Murray does. Now, I will say this, Matt. One thing that I really wish that Keegan would do more of, and I mean this, I really wish that Keegan would be a little more vocal. I would love to see Keegan just have a little bit more passion or energy, or just show that. Like, you know, I get that's not who he is. He's a quiet person, very introverted, but I hope if there's a leap or a jump that Keegan makes, Matt, from year 3 to year 4, I hope we hear a lot more of Keegan. I hope to see some emotion on Keegan's face. I want to see him turn into a killer, because I think that he has the athletic abilities and talents to do that. And I just hope mentally he becomes that force that we know he is physically.
Well, we'll see what he can do. We'll see what Doug Christie can do, putting the pieces of this puzzle together as we get closer to training camp. Hey, everybody, thanks for letting us kill some of our commute, talking to you guys and getting through this traffic. We'll have plenty more coming for you this offseason.
Actually, Matt, how's my driving?
There's a reason why I'm looking at the road so much, just to make sure we make it home safely. So let's hope this isn't the last podcast ever.